Welcome to Disability News and Views. My name is Colleen Flanagan, and I'm the Outreach and Engagement Specialist for Boston's Mayor's Commission for People with Disabilities. Thank you for tuning in and watching our show today. Today's theme for Disability News and Views is going to be pedestrian safety. In this episode, we're going to talk with a resident with disabilities about this important topic. And at the end of the show, we're going to listen to Boston Mayor's Disabilities Commission Director of Architectural Access, Patricia Mendez, speak with Senior Planner at Boston Transportation Department, Charlotte Fleetwood, to talk about some of the work that the city is doing to make sure that all wheels and feet that trek Boston's streets are safe. So let's get started. Let me introduce you to Ken Meyer, who's going to have a conversation with Boston resident Rakeem Strickland.
Thank you, Colleen. And Hakeem, how are you? It's nice to talk to you.
Hey, it's nice to meet you, Ken.
All right. I know that this program started about 9 years ago, but before to get started, talk about why and how you started this program with friends and family living healthy.
Okay, so the idea originated when a family friend asked me to walk in the park with her one day back in April of 2015. I agreed to walk with her through Franklin Park, and as we was walking, an idea came to me to start a walking group to bring out the community, get other people active, make and build lasting connections with each other in the greater Boston area. Community is very important.
Okay. Why do you think that living healthy is important for people with disabilities?
It gets you active in the community. You can build connections with others. It helps the mind, your mind, body, and spirit. People said they feel good after each walk that they participate in, and it makes them go forward with their day. They may have been tired before, but now they're ready to take on their day.
Okay. Who attends your walks?
It's open to all. We have family, friends, former co-workers. We have city councilors that are members of the group.
Okay. And what's your group meet?
We begin Saturday, June 3rd at 9 a.m. That's the time we meet, and the walk will begin at 9:15 a.m.
Okay. You do this in all kinds of weather, good and bad, or?
If it's light rain, walking will continue, but if it's heavy rain, then the walk will be canceled for the week.
Okay, and most importantly, how does one join your group? How do they contact you?
They can contact me at rstrickland96@yahoo.com. That's rstrickland96@yahoo.com.
Now, do you work in City Hall during the week?
No, I'm not at City Hall during the week, but however, I may be doing an internship there this summer through the Mass Commission for the Blind.
How big is your group at the moment? How many people do you have?
Well, it varies by the week, but currently we have around 45 members of the group, but they all don't attend every week.
And you again meet where?
We meet at the Franklin Park Golf Course Clubhouse on 1 Circuit Drive in Dorchester.
Okay. Can people just, if they don't register with you on your website, can they just come, or do they have to contact you first?
Well, they can attend. They don't have I mean, they can attend as well. They can just show up.
Okay, well, listen, I appreciate your joining us for a few minutes and talking about your group. And I hope that it is very successful and that everybody will be friendly and healthy and all the good things that happen to people with disabilities.
Okay. Thank you, Ken.
And now we'll turn it back to Colleen Flanagan, who will continue with our portion of disability news and views.
Thank you, Ken, and thank you, Rakeem. That was a wonderful conversation. Now we're going to hear from the Mayor's Commission on Disabilities Director of Architectural Access, Patricia Mendez, speak with Senior Planner at the Boston Transportation Department, Charlotte Fleetwood, about some of the projects and initiatives that the City of Boston is leading to make sure that all pedestrians with and without disabilities are safe on Boston streets. So let me hand it over to Patricia.
Thank you so much, Colleen. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Rakeem, so much. Great conversation about the walk. Good luck with the walk in Franklin Park. And here, like Colleen said, my name is Patricia Mendez. I'm the Director of Architectural Access for the Commission for Persons with Disabilities. I'm here joined by Charlotte Fleetwood. Charlotte, hi.
Hi, Patricia. So nice to see you.
Great to see you. Thank you for joining us for this conversation. Would you introduce yourself for our viewers?
Sure. I'm Charlotte Fleetwood. I'm a senior transportation planner with the Boston Transportation Department. And actually, our department is being folded into the a larger new streets cabinet. So we will be more integrated with Public Works as part of the streets cabinet. And I think we'll all in the future identify ourselves as part of the streets cabinet.
Oh, that's wonderful news. And sounds like more opportunities for our department to communicate and collaborate even
Absolutely.
more.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about ways that your office transportation department and our commission collaborate in initiatives, and especially about pedestrian safety and the important work that Vision Zero does. And we're going to talk about the systemic accessibility for the city of Boston.
Yes. So would you like me to just describe what Vision Zero is for everybody?
Yes, please.
So Vision Zero is really kind of a movement that started in Europe and has taken hold in cities throughout the country, maybe starting around 2014, 2015. And the city of Boston decided to sign on to Vision Zero in 2015. And it's a commitment to take a systems approach to reducing traffic fatalities and severe injuries. So it's a little bit different from the way traffic safety was approached in the past, in that it looks more at collective responsibility and acknowledging that people don't always follow the rules. And so we really need to design our streets to be forgiving, so that if you make a mistake and if you step out into the street, maybe when the light is not quite flashing walk, that you're not likely to get severely injured or killed. So it involves things like trying to slow speeds, slow down drivers, and really encourage people to drive at moderate speeds that are safe, but still allow you to get where you're going. And also to design the roadways to reduce conflicts. So to the extent possible, to separate times when motorists are turning left and pedestrians are crossing the street, so that there's fewer opportunities for vehicles to hit other vehicles or for motorists to hit pedestrians. And also to right size our roadways. Some of our roads are just very wide and have more travel lanes than they need. And one of the challenges is that a lot of our roadways, they're they don't get a lot of use during off-peak hours, but then there's a huge amount of traffic demand during the peak hours. And we've typically in the past designed for that peak hour traffic, but it means the rest of the day that people can drive very fast, can weave around each other and really use the whole roadway, which doesn't make it a very safe environment for pedestrians. So really thinking through how the roadway is used throughout the day and coming up with the right size for the travel lanes and the number of travel lanes so that it's safe for pedestrians and cyclists and really all road users.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Yeah, I remember when I started my job in 2016, the first week you invited me to one of the Vision Zero meetings, and it was eye-opening, very informative, and the first time I saw all the other departments working together. So that really made an impact.
Yeah, that's definitely part of the Vision Zero approach, is really to work collaboratively with other departments. So it's typical to have a Vision Zero task force that includes people from the Public Health Commission, people from the schools departments. We have an EMS representative on our task force, as well as Public Works, and we also invite representatives of various advocacy organizations. So we have Walk Boston, Livable Streets, Boston Cyclists Union there, and really having people with these different backgrounds, I think helps us be more creative and think of solutions and think of connections that we might not have otherwise thought of. So it's definitely, when we meet either once a month or once every other month with the task force, and we learn from each other. We share what we're doing. We get valuable critical feedback, not always positive, but sometimes we get the critiques that we need to hear, and that helps us, try to work harder to make improvements.
Yeah, I really enjoy that part, and I feel like from the experience in participating with other agencies, with sister agencies, is that at the beginning, the first time I hear their point of view, the first time I learn it, I don't understand it completely, but the more I hear it, the more it resonates in my head. Even if the person is not in the room at that conversation, I could hear in my head the echoes of what these other groups would be thinking and would be asking.
Yes.
Yeah, so I love that part. And I also feel like if I'm not in the room, you're going to be hearing the echoes of my voice in your head, and you'll be able to anticipate the questions that the Disabilities Commission are going to ask, and the pieces that we're going to be looking for.
Absolutely. You and others in the commission have opened up my eyes, and I think have opened up the eyes of others on the committee about the needs for people with disabilities, and how when we design for people with different abilities, we actually make the road safer and more comfortable for everybody. For example, I studied landscape design before I came to work for the city. And I used to love using unit pavers. I thought they were very pretty, and it was a nice sidewalk surface. But I learned from you and from conversations we've had with others in the commission that unit pavers are not comfortable if you're in a wheelchair. They tend to be bumpy. They tend to not be. They require more maintenance. And so my sensibility has really changed. And so now I feel like when I see a beautiful new smooth concrete sidewalk with saw cut joints, like, to me, that's just the pinnacle of beauty. That I think is a beautiful, elegant sidewalk, and really what we should be aiming towards.
Yeah, the elegance of like smooth pavement can't be overstated. So that reminds me to ask you about the programs that the city has. Complete Street comes to mind. Do you want to talk about Complete Street?
Yes, so when I first came to BTD, one of the first projects I was working on was the Complete Streets Guideline. So we had a consultant team and also an interdepartmental team weighing in on different aspects of street design. So we have a chapter on sidewalks where we looked at things like sidewalk materials. We actually did a site visit with Commissioner McCosh and others in different areas of the city to kind of take a look at together in the field what different materials look like, what they feel like, and what the experience is like riding over them in a wheelchair. So out of all of that, the guidelines now define different sidewalk zones. So for example, there's a zone that's at the edge of the street that we call the furnishing zone. And that's where you have things like street lights, street trees. And if you're going to have permeable pavements, which is, there's a lot of good reasons to want to put stormwater into the ground, you would have the permeable pavers in that furnishing zone. So they're not in the travel zone. But then behind that is the pedestrian zone where we need to have a clear and smooth path of travel and no obstructions. And that is, anywhere from a minimum of 5 to a minimum of 8 feet, but certainly can be a lot wider. And then the next zone is the frontage zone. So that's the zone where the entrance to the building is, where you might have cafe seating, something like that. But by clearly giving a name to these zones and dimensions, that really helps guide developers and also helps the city. Even though we are an old city, there are still situations where we're building new streets and new sidewalks. And so, people can look to these guidelines when determining how wide the road should be and how wide and what the design of the sidewalk should be.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And yeah, having those different zones and being able to articulate what those zones means and what they need for the pedestrians and for their comfort and for the accessibility and the safety. That is awesome. And it makes me think of the pedestrian as the way that is free and the cheapest of all. And so it's really a privilege to work towards the pedestrian accessibility.
Absolutely. I mean, everybody is a pedestrian. And I think that's a phrase that's used a lot, but it's really true. Whether you take a bus or take the subway, or even if you ride a bike, at some point you're going to get off the bike or leave the bus and be on the sidewalk. So we really, we need to prioritize pedestrians because that's really everybody. We need to make safe spaces for everyone. And, I only recently learned that in other cities, the city doesn't always, pay for sidewalks. So we're very lucky that the city of Boston does create and maintain the sidewalks in the city.
Yes, yes, we're really lucky. And yeah, so how are we doing comparing with other cities in the country or in other parts of the world?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, Boston is considered a very good walking city. Now, I've had people visit from other countries who say, it doesn't feel as safe to walk in Boston as it might feel in a place like maybe Copenhagen or some European cities. But overall, we're doing pretty well. But like we're always like benchmarking against, like, are we getting better? So we know that we can do better, but we have a pretty robust, public works department that emphasizes like operations and maintenance and, making sure that our public facilities are in good condition and are clean. Our streets are very clean. I think people notice that when they come from other cities, how clean our streets are. So I think that's all a testament to the priority that's put on, public works and maintenance and those types of things.
Yeah, good. Good to hear. Charlotte, can you give an easy example of what Vision Zero has done around around Boston, something. I mean, I know where it is when I see it in my neighborhood. I can recognize it, but would you talk about that, like a simple example or easy example?
Yeah, I think, well, we've done a number of things. We've done some quick build projects, which is where we use paint and flex posts to, repurpose street space. So for example, on Beacon Street, we actually, in the Back Bay, we reclaimed a travel lane. There was a lot of speeding on Beacon Street. There were some pedestrian fatal crashes. So that project took one of the 3 travel lanes and made it into a protected bike lane. And so that not only made it safer for cyclists, but it also slowed the speeds and made it safer for pedestrians. So that's an example of something that was done quickly with paint and flex posts. And some signal timing changes have also taken place along that roadway. Another thing we did in 2017, we reduced the citywide default speed limit. So before that, the default speed limit was 30 miles an hour, but most people didn't even know what it was. So people would just sort of go. But we raised awareness that there is a default city speed limit, and now it's 25 miles per hour. So that's, I think, made our roads safer. There was a before and after study done by the Insurance Institute of Highway Safety, IIHS, and they found that even though the median speeds had not changed that much, the percentage of people that were driving at unsafe speeds, so like 35 miles per hour and higher, was substantially reduced. So we take that as a win. Other projects we've done traffic calming in a number of locations where, for example, creating curb extensions so that there's a shorter distance to cross the street. And also with a curb extension, when a pedestrian's waiting to cross, they're further out into the street, and so that a driver will see the pedestrian. They're not blocked by the parked cars. So curb extensions is another technique we've done in many places. And pedestrian refuge islands. So that's where the pedestrian can cross halfway across the street and then be protected by an island before they then cross traffic going in the opposite direction. So that's, we have a number of those as well. And then the Neighborhood Slow Streets program has kind of combined a lot of things, but implemented speed humps throughout the city. We recently did a project in the Garrison Trotter neighborhood where we installed over 90 speed humps spaced throughout the residential streets. There's quite a few schools in that neighborhood, a number of youth, so we felt it was very important to calm traffic throughout that neighborhood. So those are some of the techniques that we've used, and we always have a number of projects in the pipeline, and so we have even more to come.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad that you mentioned the Slow Neighborhoods program. Would you expand on that? Tell us, what are they?
Yeah. So the neighborhood slow street zones, my colleague Stephanie Seskin, who is the director of active transportation, implemented this program. And the idea was, instead of doing traffic calming on one street at a time, to really look at a zone of residential streets bounded by larger streets. And then within that zone to implement traffic calming throughout. And in that way, you don't have the opportunity for someone to say, if there's one traffic calm street and there's another parallel street that's not traffic calmed, that might divert traffic from that one street to another. But if you do it throughout the zone, then there's no reason for someone to try to, sort of go avoid the traffic calming and move a problem from one street to another. So that's been a very popular program. And I believe it's being, there's going to be a new version of it that hasn't yet been announced, but that general type of approach is one that's been successful and that we want to do more of.
Oh, well, we look forward to hear more on that, and maybe it will be another opportunity to talk to your department and maybe invite Stephanie.
I think she'd be happy to do that.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So in the few minutes that we have left, tell us about the challenges that we encounter sometimes of materials or dimension. Talk about that a little, please.
Yeah, certainly because we're an older city, a lot of our streets are very constrained, or the sidewalks in particular are constrained. And so we have some challenges where we have to decide, you know, we love street trees and we know that street trees cool our sidewalks and make them more pleasant, comfortable for walking. But sometimes tree roots will lift the sidewalk and make them less accessible. So there is a new director of green infrastructure named Kate England, who is looking at ways of planting street trees so that the roots can go underneath the sidewalk without heaving them. So using something called structural soil that allows the tree roots to get air and water through the structural soil, and then to not sort of be forced to break through the sidewalk above them. So that's one problem that there is a solution for, but we need to find ways to do more of that. You know, another, I would say the biggest problem, one of the biggest problems that we have is that there is a lot of traffic on our streets, and where you have more traffic, you have more opportunities for crashes. So what we'd like to do is improve transit operations. And if we can work hand in hand with the MBTA to make our bus operations better, then hopefully more people will choose to take transit, and we'll have fewer cars on our street and fewer opportunities for crashes. So I'd say those are some of our major challenges, but parking also, that parking takes up a lot of space. You know, if we didn't need as much parking, then we would have more space for wider sidewalks and for more amenities like street trees. So again, figuring out how to make it possible to live in the city without needing to own a car. I personally don't own a car. I know I have a lot of friends in the transportation department who do not own cars. So it's possible to do, but, you know, we understand that sometimes people need a car. You know, people with disabilities may need a car, or people who are bringing family members to daycare, or picking up family members on their way home from work. You know, they may need to have a car. So certainly there's always going to be a need for cars and parking, but providing alternatives that work for those of us who are able to choose alternatives is something we'd very much like to do.
Yeah, absolutely. In every conversation, every day, we start talking about one thing and we always end up talking about transportation. So yeah, thank you for bringing it up. And yeah, it's an important work, and we're always looking to improve, because the more, you know, public transportation we have that is convenient, that it's accessible, and it's close to us, then we're going to be more inclined to leave the cars, or have less cars, or have no cars. I'm not there yet, but I am driving less these days. Trying to use more public transportation, because now we have the path. So I'm taking more of the commuter line these days.
Oh, that's great. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's great. All right. So thank you so much for joining us. And I hope we have more opportunities to collaborate, to share, to learn from each other, and to support each other's work. And congratulations on merging with the Streets Cabinet. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Patricia. It's always a pleasure to work with you and the others in your department.
Hi, Colleen.
Hi, thank you so much, Patricia and Charlotte. I hope our viewers enjoyed that conversation as much as I did, and learned some things about pedestrian safety and what Boston is doing to make sure all pedestrians, with or without disabilities, can trek Boston streets, regardless if they're doing that using wheels or feet. So thank you very much for that conversation, and thank you to all of our viewers for tuning in. This is the end of April's 2023's Disability News and Views. But if you have questions for the City of Boston's Mayor's Commission for People with Disabilities in the meantime, before we have our next month's episode, you are strongly encouraged to email disability@boston.gov with any questions or concerns you have about accessibility or inclusion at the City of Boston. Thank you for watching. Take care.